Oh man. Welcome to week number 8 here. We got a great episode. We got an interview later on with Triumph's general manager Rusto. Excited for that, but before we get into that, I would like to ask you guys to make sure you subscribe and like the video. Get us a little bit stronger with that YouTube algorithm so more people catch the episode. But yeah, I just want to go ahead and get into this interview with the general manager of Triumph, Rusto.
Hello, what's up?
What's going on, man? How are you doing
How
today?
are you guys? I am excellent.
Good. Yeah. So you reached out to us last week after our interview with Spork. I know that you guys are typically in connection quite a bit just because of your relationship with Overwatch, which is where you got your start. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I worked in Overwatch for about 3.5 years before joining Triumph, and it's funny that you bring it up. It's like Spork and I kind of like worked for like a year, like in tandem with each other, competing with each other. So when I saw him on your podcast, I knew I had to hit you guys up.
Keep the competition going.
Yeah.
No. I think you guys are great hosts, and I just wanted to talk to you guys. That's all.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, but you go ahead there, Jayel.
Yeah, sure. So how about you kind of give us a maybe a wider background on kind of like, I guess, how even you got into Overwatch, how you kind of like evolved into this position with Triumph, maybe how you got into Triumph. I think we would personally, and I'm sure our viewers would kind of hear that background story.
Yeah, so I joined Triumph. So Triumph's a pretty young organization, actually. It was founded about a year and a half ago, almost a year, actually. I'd say like a year and 9 months, something like that. Anyway, I wasn't with Triumph originally. I worked in the Overwatch scene for various teams, including the Los Angeles Gladiators Academy team, for those of you that know anything about Overwatch. And, Triumph started in Overwatch as a contenders team originally, a year and a half ago or whatever. And so I knew everybody at Triumph. And when between 2019 and 2020, when LA decided to drop their academy team, that's when I was out of a job. So the people at Triumph approached me, and I came on board. So I've been with Triumph now, and with all of our teams across all games, not only Overwatch, for 9 or 10 months now. I think December was when I joined.
And then like as far as since you've come on, you said Triumph is a pretty young organization. How have you kind of seen Triumph, I guess, kind of grow through your time there, and kind of like what are your maybe like visions for where they're going? Are they trying to be like this, Fnatic-esque organization? Are they kind of trying to stay on their level, or what can you kind of share about that?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. So I'd say we've grown pretty rapidly. Triumph grew really fast compared to a lot of other organizations that are a year and a half in. Partially because we were invested in by Kevin Garnett, so that was obviously like a huge boost for the company. Yeah, and so Triumph kind of had a running start originally before I even joined. I would say our progress this year has been really positive. We've had a lot of success. Obviously, as you guys know, the reason I'm here is like with our Counter-Strike team, and as well as with our Call of Duty team, especially. We actually won COD Challengers this year. So I'd say overall, like, growth has been good. Success has been, pretty steady overall. But like the vision for the organization, I think, is a little bit different than what people expect. Like, I don't really know if our goal is necessarily to be like Fnatic or be like Cloud9 or Liquid or something. We're trying to focus more on the developmental side and like actually developing the tier 2 for all the games that we operate in. So our goal is a little bit different. It's a little I don't know. It's a little against the grain, and it definitely has created like a lot of unique challenges this year. And I know we're gonna have success in our journey, but it's definitely gonna look a little bit different than what people would anticipate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially I feel like with that being said, it's like the constant kind of battle, and you see it in, I guess, the first thing that comes to my mind is like soccer or like football in other countries around the world, continents around the world. It's like
Yeah,
these
did you just call it soccer, bro?
yeah,
So
get the
uncultured.
pitchforks out. We haven't spread too much into the European scene yet, so I think I'm safe
Yeah,
for
you're
now.
good.
But
Yeah, you guys definitely aren't gonna get any Brazilian fans saying soccer. That's for sure.
yeah.
I'll tell you.
but yeah, I mean that's a huge I guess business model, right? Like in the sports area where you have these teams that they sell and they kind of develop these players and bring them up into the upper tiers, and so it's definitely against the grain, I guess, kind of like in the esports vision, but it's a very very practical and relevant thing. So it's cool to kind of hear that come out.
Yeah, I would say it's like when you look at the traditional sports world, with football, and in most traditional sports, they have like a very clear path to development. Most professional leagues use like collegiate programs to kind of like develop talent and scout talent, and so it's less of a business model and more of part of the original model, if that makes sense, in traditional
Yeah.
sports. But it hasn't really become so in esports yet. So like one of our goals is to kind of help move things in that direction, as much as we can, I suppose.
Awesome. Visionaries,
Yeah.
Wow,
trailblazers.
I like
not
that.
quite.
I like that idea from y'all because it's had some success so far. Um, like with your pickup, with your recent roster, your recent success in Blast. I guess that was a couple months ago now, but largely attributed to that roster at that time. And then you sent Grim off his way to Liquid. You want to
Yeah.
speak on that transfer?
Yeah. I mean, Grim, the Grim Reaper. I think everybody that probably follows your podcast will know who Grim was.
Oh, yeah.
Grim was on our team for a long time. He's like one of the most impactful members we've ever had on our CS team, and he's just like, he's just a generational talent, man.
Oh
So,
yeah.
as much success as we had with him, we always kind of knew he was going to go. Like our goal was
Yeah.
always to get him as well as everybody else on the team to the next level. To an organization like Liquid maybe that has, a million times the money as we do,
Yeah.
or like, all the resources, all the backing that you could ever ask for a professional career. Like it was always our goal to get him there. It was just a matter of when, frankly, because we knew he was just so good. It was only a matter of time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I and like from what you had just mentioned, like trying to develop that tier 2 talent, I think fits in with like directly with that recent success. Like developing that tier 2 talent and in Grim's rise to a huge org like Liquid is really cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I'm curious. It sounds like you kind of already answered this question, but I'm wondering when you and maybe the team kind of realized the talent that Grim was. Was it the second that you guys signed him? Did it kind of like start to grow over time? Um, what about that?
Well, Grim had always been successful. Like if you look back to his first season of MDL, 2 years ago, something like that now. His first season of MDL, his team made Pro League, so he had always been sort of in the successful spot. He was just like this raw young talent.
Yeah.
So when we signed the team for ESEA, for MDL season 33, which obviously got extended because of COVID, but that was back in February or maybe March. We kind of knew his trajectory was headed that direction. Like it was pretty obvious that he was hitting form, and there were a lot of things in his life I think were coming to a head that contributed to his performance this year. So we kind of always knew that he was going to be a top tier talent. I believe back when we signed him, it was like the first month where he was like HLTV's Player of the Month or something like that. He had like a 1.3 rating 2.0, and
Dang.
needless to say, that's kind of high. So he was already kind of popping off, but we knew that he needed just to have a team to grind with for a few months to really hit form. And so we kind of always, I don't want to say it was like a given, but we kind of always knew he's just such a special player, man.
Oh yeah.
And yeah.
And with that, like when were people always kind of like reaching out and maybe we can even start to go down this road, but were people always kind of reaching out to you guys and being like, hey, is Grim available, or when are you looking to get rid of that guy, or what's the availability? Kind of like, was that always going on, or did it kind of hit a point where everyone's like, hey, what's Grim?
Well, yeah, I mean, with him particularly because of his obvious trajectory, we did have like an org reach out to us at some point in the middle of our MDL season, and I mean, I obviously can't tell you guys like what orgs
Yeah.
were reaching out to us
Sure.
ultimately, but like the week that that Grim was transferred to Liquid, we had 4 organizations, looking for him specifically, all at the same time. It's funny because I don't know if you guys remember this. We had a match against MIBR. I think it was DreamHack Spring, and it was like this incredible match where Grim had like 120 frags in 3 maps or something like that. He had like 60 kills on Overpass, like a 1 point, I don't know, whatever rating, like insane game, like this legendary game. And I remember I was jokingly telling my partner, like, "Oh man, we're gonna get a bunch of calls tomorrow, dude. Like we're screwed, you know." And I literally woke up the next morning at 10 a.m. and had emails of people that were trying to sign Grim. So it was kind of always expected, you know. And
Yeah.
it's never an issue. Like that's the thing is like we're very, very happy to be able to move Grim into the next level. Like I said, that's pretty much our goal anyway. That's what we're literally trying to do. I mean, with Grim and with all of the people on our team now. So it's not that it was a problem. And if it was a problem, it was definitely a good problem to have.
Yeah.
We don't mind that, you know.
And kind of with that, you know, it seems like from the video, I remember watching the video that Grim did after I think the Mibber domination and destruction. And he seems like a very professional person, even though, you know, he's young and stuff. And so I'm curious, like, does he come out as a player and say, hey, you know, I'm ready personally, or has he been very respectful to like kind of like the Triumph's decision making in that? And what can you kind of share on that topic?
Yeah, I mean, he was and is what I would consider like an exemplary professional, you know, like he was never he never created any problems like where he like wanted more, you know, opportunities or something like that. He was never unhappy. And I don't know if it was because of us or if it was just because he was happy on the team, you know, like the core of guys that we had at the time were all friends with Mike. So I think he was just very happy to be where he was. We were obviously having success, so there was really no rush for him. But when opportunities come up that are hard to ignore, like you know,
Yeah.
we're not gonna make him stick around for our own team success. Like we want to move him along. So when the time came, we knew it was like the right time. But there was never really any problems like that. No, it was pretty. He's the best, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
It's awesome to hear, like, from that perspective, because yeah, he's just a beast.
Yeah.
Xner, you want to pick our next path in this conversation?
Yeah. So I kind of want to transfer into like we can go back to whatever we got earlier, but now with your new roster, like how is that going, and how are you planning on developing that talent? Like I really want to like ask like how much time are you gonna give them before you start to expect some success?
Well, we've been together. Our current roster now has been playing for about a month. And, you know, around the time we lost Grim, we also lost Curry because he had to focus on school, so he can't scrim. Like, I think
Okay.
he's playing MDL actually with.
Yeah, it
I think
seems
he's
to be
with
like with a
Rugrats,
pug
right?
team. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pug team. They don't practice, you know. Like he's focusing on school, which is great. And so we lost 2 like huge like components of our team at the same time right before Pro League. So we kind of had to scramble to put a team together. And one thing about like high tier CS is that it just takes a lot of time. Like if you're competing against players and teams, like all the Pro League components that we have that have been together for a year or
Yeah.
more, it takes a lot of time to build synergy and like to learn everyone's play styles and stuff within the team. So I'm actually really, really confident with the team we have now. I think like we have all of the right pieces. It's pretty obvious to me anyway, from the way that we play, that we have the right pieces. We just we have to figure out how to work together better and just get some more reps.
Yeah.
So I think like over the next couple months, people will realize like our team is really dangerous. And I mean, I'm really, really happy with the direction our team's going. I've
Yeah.
already seen improvement like just in the last 2 weeks. You know, like we went from getting absolutely dunked on. I almost don't want to bring it up. It was so bad in Pro League. We played Cloud9 last week and we got 16-2 and 16-3
Yeah,
respectively.
that's like kind of what I
So
was mentioning.
yeah,
Were those
and
last couple weeks, but then like yesterday, you know, you showed some sides of life against Chaos. So I have
yeah,
definitely
and
seen the improvements that you've been talking about.
and you know, playing Counter-Strike online, it's very day to day. You know, like
Yeah.
most teams at our level, for instance, at like the top tier 2 level and even like the lower like you know North American tier 1 level, most of these teams can beat each other on any given day. You know, just depending on who wakes up on the right
Right.
side of the bed. Like
Who's hitting
even
shots?
today, you know, EG is like the best team in North America for a long time, and today Furia kind of smacked them, right? So
Right.
most of these teams can kind of compete on a day-to-day basis. So I don't want to credit like our turnaround this week to becoming super like way better in a
Yeah.
short amount of time. But like for instance, we played Cloud9. We got what I would consider dunked on in our Pro League match, and then 2 days later or 3 days later, we played them in the Mythic Cup and we beat them. So
Yeah.
you know, there's just growing pains of trying to get everyone to work together. And I mean, I've seen, you know, I'm in practice pretty often, and I've seen the development. So I'm really excited for the future of Triumph CS.
Yeah.
And I'm curious too, you know, speaking about like developing this team, even before developing this team, kind of how did you come across Ryan and Moose and kind of like make those decisions, say, you know, I'm bringing these people in here. These are my targets. Was there maybe anyone that you missed out on, or is like were you successful in kind of like getting exactly who you wanted and kind of like what was that research and I guess like execution like?
So bringing in, first we brought in Penny. That was pretty much a no-brainer because he was performing better than everyone else statistically, and whenever we played against him, he was just like an absolute stud, you know. And he's been on the come up for a long time. He's a younger player, so I know that he's going to improve tenfold. When it came to filling with Ryan and Moose, there are a lot of factors, you know. I mean, we have obviously players on the team, and everybody at that level like knows each other. You know how it
Yeah.
is. I mean, it's the same even in MDL. It's the same in advanced. Like people know each other in the scene, so you kind of know who's floating around, who's teamless, who plays what role. You know, just having general scene knowledge is really important. So whenever we have to fill a position like we did recently, I just like have to sit down as a team and talk to Shake, our IGL, talk to my coach Marcos, and just like kind of create like a mental list of who's available. The thing about Ryan and Moose was that their time on Envy was really poor, you know, like statistically. So when we picked up like both of them, I think people were expecting them to be bad players because of whatever, you know,
Yeah.
weird thing happened on their time on Envy where like they weren't playing a lot of matches and the balance was really off. So I mean, we just looked into like, there's no way that these guys that were absolute monsters prior to this 1 6-month period of time
Right.
on a team, there's no way that they just became the worst players in the world. Like there had to have been some other factors. And so, um, you know, we looked there and figured out that they would probably be a good fit. But a lot of it's just knowledge. You know, everyone knows each other. Ryan previously played with Shake on Singularity. You know, everyone's pretty familiar with each other, man.
And you mentioned you know, speaking with the IGL Shake and the coach, I'm curious kind of like what your balance is. This is something I've been personally trying to figure out on our side of things is like the relationship and like the difference of responsibilities between like the coach and the manager. Obviously the coach is, you know, executing in practices and kind of finding mistakes, but I feel like you're clearly talking to them very frequently. So like kind of where are those spots that intertwine with each other and like maybe like where are the key differences in what you're kind of doing and he's doing or her if they're
Yeah. Yeah, you're looking for the industry. You're looking for the trade secrets, man. I get it.
yes. Facts.
You know, every team is a little bit different. You know, so for instance, our situation, I think that our leadership situation in the team is different than other teams. Like we have Shake is what I would consider to be like a really strong IGL and captain, right? So he handles um, a lot of macro stuff with the team. You know, he kind of keeps people, you know, going and handles like a lot of the scheduling work and stuff like that. Kind of like that's kind of how traditionally captains have always been in the game before esports became this big industry and you start having a lot of coaches and managers. That's traditionally just how it's been. So
Yeah.
he's just like this old school like team leader figure. And you know, the most important part about our team is the way that our coach integrates with what was already happening because originally Tacitus was on our team as an analyst, so he would only do like map review and prep for matches. You know, he would like write documents on our opponents and stuff like that. But as he's moved into the head coach role, he's taken on a lot more responsibility of like the macro team environment stuff. And so really, like I don't know, the best way to build a development you know setup and a support system within a team is just dependent on how the team is and the pieces that you have, like who's good at what, who likes to do what, and you just try to cover, you know, every angle with whatever you have,
Yeah.
personnel wise. And I try not to step on their feet, for instance, because I'm kind of like their acting manager as GM. We don't really have our own team manager, for instance, but between like the team and Marcos, our coach Tacitus, they pretty much cover everything. So I really don't have to like lead with an iron fist or anything with them. They pretty much just run the show smoothly for the most part. I just like to communicate with them, so I'm usually with them in practice or on match days always. But it's different for every team, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to jump back to your success in Blast for a moment, and I wonder how that correlated with the success of the organization. If those two were kind of if you saw like a jump up in your success with your org, alongside that success in Blast specifically, because you had a lot of like really impressive upsets, starting kind of from there, but also a little bit before.
Yeah. That timing was really good. Like the start of this year of like RMR events and stuff, like with Blast was well, Blast wasn't an RMR, but you get my point. This
Yeah.
sort of cycle of offline events.
Right.
That was like the beginning for us, and that was when we were kind of in peak form with our old, Grim and Curry roster. I don't remember there being really any upsets in that tournament. I think we beat Cloud9, which I guess you would consider an upset, but I believe it was a best of one. I remember everybody was complaining because it was best of one in the group stage. I believe we went 15-15 with 100 Thieves, and we went 16-14 loss against Gen G, and we also had another close loss, maybe 16-13 against EG. So we didn't have any upsets really, other than C9, I suppose, if
Okay.
you consider that one. But we did have like a lot of like
Those
really close games. And
yeah.
I think really what did it was when Thorin started hyping us up. That was kind of what.
Did you
Like,
sign you for a Flashpoint team?
as soon as Thorin's on your side, like you pretty much
Yeah.
you're good to go, But no, it was just a culmination of like a lot of things happening at the right time for our team, like peak performances from pretty much everybody. And
Yeah.
I think it definitely legitimized our CS team, and the guys that are on that team gained a lot of good credibility. We were no longer just seen as like a random MDL team.
Yeah.
So from there, it's much easier to operate, but it doesn't really change the day to day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And our organization, like we operate in other games that aren't just CS. So like I wouldn't say that our growth was directly tied to Blast, but definitely it was like the start of a really good series of tournaments for us. I hope that answers your question.
No, yeah, it does. That's perfect.
Um,
You go ahead there, Jayel.
yeah, I'm trying to think. Should we go into stay in? Well, we'll ask you, Rusto. Would you rather kind of talk about, the NA, kind of like tier 2 org situation, or kind of like go maybe into like some details about like GM and kind of like managing different games and like specific responsibilities? Which flip of the coin will you have?
I mean, I don't care. We can talk about both. I don't know. I mean, I know you guys don't have all the time in the world, but I don't care. Whatever you guys are more interested in, I guess.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely talk about both. I guess
Yeah,
which one do you want to do
I've
first?
got all night.
Yeah.
We could talk about tier 2 CS. That's cool
Sweet.
with me.
All right,
Start
cool.
there.
So I'll start it off. I got a little right up here. It's not really telling of any specific thing, but it is, I guess, kind of like an interesting point. So for North America in the MDL, only 10 of 18 teams are currently like org backed, which is about like 55%. In Europe, MDL, 100% org backed. And then NA Advanced, 32 of 55 teams are org based, which is 58%, pretty much the same as MDL. So I'm curious, you clearly have a lot of respect for the tier 2 and developing talent and whatnot. And so I'm kind of curious on what your perspective is on, maybe not as many orgs being involved in NA MDL versus, even, I don't want to say like lesser tier, but obviously advanced is not MDL. So like, there's these smaller groups that are kind of like putting things together and trying to build teams up. And so I guess kind of like, what is your perspective on that entire, I guess, brief statement? Yeah.
Yeah, I got the numbers. You shared the numbers with me before, and I didn't know any of these numbers, so it's helpful for me to kind of like take a look at where each respective level, like tier 2, tier 3 is in CS. I would say like the general health of tier 2 is positive. You know, the amount of organizations that are um, present in each tier as well as in each region are completely reflective of the amount of money that's in it for an organization, or the amount of viewership. So in EU, obviously, you said 100% of the MDL teams in EU are organization backed. That's actually a pretty, I wouldn't say shocking number, but that's 100% is pretty good.
Yeah.
Well,
I would say that obviously the reason. What were you gonna say?
yeah,
Man? My bad.
yeah. Feel like we're heading to the same point, but like MDL in Europe has a much better viewership rate.
Right.
Even with like the specific languages in each like teams and stuff. Like once you get into like MDL kind of scene, like a lot of the like separate countries have like their own huge group of fan bases that come out and
Yeah.
support MDL. So I've definitely
That's a huge thing in
noticed.
CS.
Yeah. So I've noticed just so much support for EU. Like even when I've casted like MDL, I've never casted an MDL EU game, but in like um advanced kind of brackets, like still like my viewerships was higher for advanced than it was in EU than it was in North America, and I casted like
That's pretty
every
interesting.
day for NACS. So it was, yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I wonder what causes that specific. You know, I was gonna call it a problem. It's not a problem. That specific wonderful blessing.
Yeah.
You know, I would say like definitely the reason why there's more support for MDL level teams, and probably if you looked at advanced teams in EU, it's probably the same. That the figures are probably higher. Probably more organizations is because EU is the dominant region for
Yeah.
the game. So every game, like, it's something that I had to like learn as a GM, is like every game has its like dominant region. CS, obviously, the best teams in the world, and the best talent in the world generally comes from EU. There's just a huge talent pool there.
Mhm.
So I think probably the reason why you see more organizations there is because there's more talent to develop, and better teams mean in general there's more cash flow coming through from success. You know, NA is sort of like a secondary region, I would say, behind EU. So it's no surprise to me there's less orgs. But even I would say like it's important to realize that there's even a separation in the type of organizations that are in MDL versus advanced. So I'd say in MDL, most of the organizations that do exist are generally funded pretty well. You know, even just like kind of middle ground MDL teams are paying salaries. If you go down to like advanced or even below that, you generally see organizations that are just kind of starting to create their brand. You know, young organizations, less than a year. You know what I mean? And maybe they don't have the same amount of money as MDL orgs have. So the support level is different in each tier in CS. You know, and until like an advanced team has like a lot of success and goes to MDL, you know, they pretty much just muddle around in the same tier until they get the money to get the better players to have success. You know what I mean? So it's really interesting. Like I think the support that teams get doesn't always directly reflect like their success or lack of success. It's just an interesting ecosystem where like we were talking about this before the show. There's a meritocracy in CS where like, you know, you can actually climb the ladder, and if you have a badass team that's together a few tiers down, if they just really grind together and work really hard, they can get up to MDL or higher, you know, and that doesn't exist in a lot of other games. So it's the same with organizations in a way. You know, you can start at a lower tier and like get up to a higher level, but I don't know. Not all orgs are created similarly, I suppose. I worked for an org, you know, before I got into Overwatch, I was in CS. I would say, I think it was like MDL season 26 or something like that.
Okay.
And I worked with this organization that was very short-lived, and I don't. Well, I won't even bring up.
Can you bring up the name?
I won't even bring up the guy, but I think it was called. Man, I can't remember, dude.
I'm trying to think back.
You know,
that was just a long time
it started
ago.
with an A.
Oh.
It was like their shorthand was like
Astralis.
AP. Yeah, no, I used to work for Astralis back in NA MDL.
And they were the worst back then.
The reason I bring it up, like one of the reasons why I had left to focus on Overwatch anyway, was because this guy that ran this organization had like, the team was really talented, and the team had like um, gone from main up to I think they got auto promoted from IM or something like that. Like they were like they literally won and they got auto promoted to advanced, and I don't know, to they
Xner
ended up in
knows.
MDL. They ended
Is
up
it
in MDL.
adaptation?
No,
Oh,
Atmosphere. It was called Atmosphere.
atmosphere.
And it was very short lived, and I'll tell you why. That the guy that had hired us all and was like paying payroll and stuff like that, he was like a scam artist, you know. And you see it a
Perfect.
lot.
Oh
You
yeah.
see it a lot in esports, you know. So we found like all the money that he said was coming in, and all the money he said he was paying the players is like not real. You know, he's just some dude just like scamming people. You know what I mean? And um,
That's
so
crazy.
you see a lot of orgs that like are just building their brand and stuff, but then you see a lot of orgs that come and go. You know what I mean? All through the scene, every season, at every
yeah.
level.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
Yeah,
But
that's what I've noticed from like casting advanced specifically was like I mean, you'd see like teams promoting their players and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden like their Twitter would just disappear and then they do like a total rebranding and then they'd be back as
yeah,
like it's bizarre, but
it
it's hard to
happens all
keep
the
up
time, you
with.
know, and that's why like at the lower level you see more of that because
Yeah,
it's mostly just guys just like trying to make a cool brand and
right. It's
get
hard.
off the blocks, and then that's why at the higher level in MDL and above, you really don't see a lot of the
Mm.
organizations like that because you have to have a certain amount of credibility over time. So it's just really cool. I think the system's great, to be honest.
Oh yeah.
The ESEA system.
And
Yeah, I
it's
love it.
interesting too, like this is from left field, but like it's crazy for me to really fathom like how games like I guess Overwatch, Call of Duty, I guess most notoriously, like have these franchise things that I mean what Call of Duty's a $30 million buy-in. And it's
Something
just
like
like
that, yeah.
not even like what's the point of even trying to like build a team up? I guess you can maybe even allude to that, right? Where you guys
Well, yeah.
clearly have the backing and but you have to go to like the Challenger League or
Yeah, so COD only just changed the system last year. Prior to that, COD was like an open field. Like you could just like bankroll. You could be a new organization and pay big salaries and get the best players and just go immediately win championships. You play open brackets and win. It was an open format. But they recently, obviously, adopted the Overwatch League franchised format. Um, for organizations in the sort of tier two, contenders or challengers pool, like there has to be different, more realistic goals because
yeah.
now if you're not shelling out $30 million to be a partner team or to be a franchise, which nobody has. I mean, you're talking about these huge like billion-dollar companies that are doing it. If you just are like me or whatever, or even Counter Nature, you obviously can't go operate in a CDL team, so
Mm-hmm.
you have to operate in the
Wait,
tier two.
what?
Yeah, you just can't do it, dude. I don't know if you knew this, but you just can't do it. So the format's different. Like, the prize pool is what it is. It's generally pretty low. Viewership is generally pretty low for like tier two Overwatch or COD. But the benefit is like if you operate one of the best programs, and I don't mean to call anyone out, but maybe like, somebody in this room uh, on a team called Triumph that won challenges, you have like a lot of opportunities to work directly with CDL teams to like farm talent for them in a way. You know, if you are a legitimate organization with like a lot of resources at hand, you can actually play a huge part in the next generation of professional tier one players, which is why we're in it. But if you're in it to be in the highest level, you're obviously never going to be able to be at the highest level.
Yeah.
So it's definitely like a little bit different from games like Counter-Strike where you can literally just by merit pop off and go be at the top level. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's really unique how all different games have like this different ecosystem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Completely. With that, what do you guys think about kind of like going into more of like I guess like the GM responsibilities? I mean, it's really impressive. First of all, yeah, hearing you talk about like the Counter-Strike scene, you're extremely knowledgeable. Hearing you talk about the Call of Duty and Overwatch, really knowledgeable. It's yeah, really impressive. So I would love to kind of hear, you know, what your maybe like weekly, daily responsibilities are for general managing and how you kind of like manage these different, worlds, right? COD,
Yeah.
Overwatch, Counter-Strike.
Yeah, I mean, my days are usually pretty busy. Today I had some free time, so I'm glad I could be able to do something like this with you guys. But also because COD is an off season, so I don't really have too much going on with them. Day-to-day general management, it's just managing people, man. Like everybody on all of our teams, including our marketing team and our coaches and our staff, like everybody has like different problems in their life. So like my job is to kind of just like manage those for them and kind of keep them on track and make sure that we're doing things to like a certain standard. Triumph as an organization, what we're trying to do is create like a really, really good workflow with all of our teams. And so there are some things that I have to implement from team to team that are very specific and like universal across all of our teams. But at the same time, because scenes are so different, a lot of the stuff that I have to do for the COD team is different than what I have to do for the CS team, for instance. And so just having like, I have like a lot of different just small tasks and like ways of communicating things that I have to be mindful of with all of our different teams. And my day is like 80% meeting. I'm usually just like in calls like this, talking to people about whatever has to get done. But I guess my biggest responsibilities are scouting rosters, whenever we lose a player, like if we lose Grim to Liquid or when we lose Junior to, his next team. My job is to help with the team to scout a new player and to rebuild. My job's to basically make sure players have what they need. So some players, we have to make sure they have like their computer setup's good, like their internet is good, make sure they have jerseys and we have Advanced GG as a sponsor, so making sure they're getting their sponsored stuff. And just being like, and I don't mean to like throw that out on your podcast. I'm just saying,
no.
if you...
It's funny that you say that because Third Impact's sponsored by.
Oh, they sponsor a lot of teams.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, they sponsor a lot of teams, but
Sweet.
they sponsor a lot of Overwatch teams.
Feel
you can
free
use...
to plug any and everything you want.
For real.
I would never plug
no sponsorship over here, so
yeah.
I would never plug using code Triumph at advanced.gg to get 10%
Oh.
off. I would never do that or sneak that in. But
code Triumph at advanced.gg. You guys heard that.
But as far as like day-to-day tasks, it's just making sure I'm always in communication with everybody on our teams as well as our staff, and just like making sure that they all have what they need and that they're happy and they're able to do their jobs well. That's all. I think communication is probably like the biggest skill to have, and so I find myself on Discord pretty much 24/7. I mean, it's a pretty sweet gig.
It sounds like really the GM is like the true CEO, kind of like on like this level of the esports side, because obviously I'm sure I don't know who or anything about the owner or the executives of Triumph, but you're really in there kind of seeing everything that Triumph is. It sounds like.
Well, personally, I just come from a team level. Like I was always a team manager and stuff in Overwatch for like years. So I think I have like a more personal relationship with competition, so I actually just like to be in practice with my team and stuff.
Yeah.
And so it makes that part of managing a lot easier for me. And every organization and every company in esports is a little bit different structure wise, like especially with upper management. Like Triumph is still, and some people are surprised by this, but Triumph is still like a startup company. We're a very small company. It's basically just me and my partner, who is our CEO. His name is Scott O'Leary. It's basically just us and upper management. So we have to share a lot of tasks. Like as CEO, he has to do a lot of stuff that CEOs typically don't do, maybe in other big companies. And as GM, I maybe have to cover, more bases than I wouldn't normally have to. But it's all in good faith, and we're just trying to all, get to this one unified goal. And like, sometimes you have to like step out of your comfort zone a little bit, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
Oh no, you're good. I was just about to. I was just about to mention like I've been on a huge like HenryG kick. I feel like everyone in the CS:GO scene has been kind of mesmerized by his kind of introduction into the role of general manager, where like you're kind of just that person who has to work on like so many different aspects, and like general managers, like if you kind of compare them to sports, I'm not like certain of what they do in sports, but I know it's a lot less than what like esports general managers have to do, like because there's so much responsibility that gets put onto certain people's shoulders in like startup companies, like you said, that like probably like it ideally would not necessarily be there. And so I mean,
Yeah.
I know that you probably love it and you're probably like the grind, but I definitely like see what you're talking about there.
Yeah, I guess I don't even realize it.
Yeah.
But again, I do it all the time. We in esports, we like to draw like alliteration and similarities between us and traditional sports. I think that the scale that GMs operate on in like professional sports is so much larger. Like
Right.
maybe they have less tasks to do, but their tasks are like monumental.
Yeah.
Like when you're trying to
Yeah.
sign someone to like a multi-million-dollar deal, you're trying to sign LeBron James to whatever $40 million a year, like the most famous athlete on the
Yeah.
planet with hundreds of millions of fans. Like
Mhm.
that, even if that's your only task, like I guarantee that people that are
I'd
responsible for
stress
that
you out.
are completely obliterated stress wise for like
Yeah.
weeks at a time. So
That's a good point.
I think there's a scale difference, but at the same time, it's just everybody's got a different structure. The HenryG thing being brought on as GM for only for C9 Counter Strike is
Yeah.
definitely an interesting move. I think the most interesting thing about that move was his announcement they were going to make contract details public. I think that's kind of actually I don't know if that was his idea. I bet it was probably not only his idea. It was like a conglomerate of people, but I think that's probably going to change the game a lot. But I'm not exactly sure what his daily task would be. Because for instance, Triumph being much smaller than Cloud9, we don't need a GM specifically for each team. We might get like a team manager for each team, but you don't. I as GM can handle all of our teams, but C9 is so damn big where like they need more management to help with their teams because they have so many teams, and they're working at such a large
Yeah.
pay scale with so much, credibility behind them, and it's just different. It's different for everybody at every level.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I hope the new C9 project works out. I think it's really really odd timing, frankly. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
claim to know what's going on with the organization. Their team that they have now or that they had prior, kind of old C9 roster, like the team's pretty good all things considered. So I'm not entirely sure why they're making this huge push to change the entire roster, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not gonna knock them for it.
Yeah, it's definitely a weird time because I feel like there's such a lack of talent around the world going around. Like maybe something could happen with MIBR, but I don't know. Yeah, it's a little bit unfortunate.
MIBR.
Yeah. Like I have no idea what's like gonna happen with the next couple pickups from them, but I'm sure there's just so many questions going around. It looks
I've
like
heard names floating around. I think they're gonna do it. Well, I don't know, like for sure. I
yeah,
know even HenryG said publicly, right, that they wanted to get Floppy and OC, but I don't think they came to terms, right? That's what he was talking about.
yeah. So I think partially because of RMR, partially because the team just wanted to stay together, that they're just like sticking as a
Yeah.
5-man.
Well, it's a lot easier for them. Again, bring it back to like what happened with our team. It's a lot easier to just stick together. Like they're
Yeah.
at the point now as a team where they're having success. They're able to get wins, and there's no reason to set themselves back a year. So I understand their decision to want to stay together as well. Yeah, I think what I was going to say was that I imagine C9 will probably go pretty heavy European.
Yeah.
A lot of organizations are doing that. I think it might be, Flashpoint's coming up. I think a lot of teams are going to try to go European for that, but I don't know if that's going to be long term. I think it might be a symptom of the pandemic, because I think it's a lot harder to run an organization in North America than it is in Europe right now. So, and to run a team, even, to have events and stuff like that. So that might be part of the reason, but I don't know. Not exactly sure why they made that change, but
Yeah. It's like a super interesting project that I'm definitely gonna be keeping a close eye on. I just am a Cloud9 like super fan, so everything
oh,
they
who's
do.
not, dude?
Yeah.
Who's not?
Yeah.
Jack's the nicest dude, I mean, who's not? They're
Yeah.
like between them and Liquid, and really them and Liquid, they're like maybe you could put Complexity and Envy into this group. They're like the North American vanguards, dude. Everyone
Yeah.
loves Cloud9, man.
Oh yeah, definitely. I just love them. I hope that HenryG just has some success, and I want to see them, major contenders once again. But
Yeah,
um,
definitely.
I don't know. Moving on to another question. Do you have anything else, Jayel?
I don't think so. I think I'm clean out.
Yeah. That's all I've got. I really want to say a huge thank you for reaching out to us. This was an absolute blast. I love having a new perspective and getting a little bit of insight into a scene where I really know nothing about. I just keep an eye on teams and servers. I don't really pay attention to the business that behind it, but it's super interesting to get a perspective there.
Yeah, I mean, look, I really appreciate you guys having me on. You know, when I reached out, I wasn't sure if you guys would even be down. I'm not even sure if I have anything interesting to say. You know, I just I think you guys are trying to do something good with your podcast, and I don't see why people are so like scared to talk to each other in the industry and in the scene, in the CS scene. So it was fun, man. I appreciate you guys having me, and hopefully I was able to give you guys some cool info.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Great, much appreciated, and yeah, best wishes with Triumph and your project. And just hearing you talk, I can kind of tell, the talent that you have and the ability that you have. And so, yeah,
stop,
Triumph
dude.
definitely lucky to have you. Yeah, no, it's cool. Like Xner said, it was very eye opening, and you can definitely tell the amount of work that you put into it. So shout out to you and your guys' teams.
Yeah, well, when we make, well, I don't think it's possible. I was gonna say when we make Pro League playoffs, I'll send you guys trophy, but that's not gonna happen.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
I think it's too late, but yeah, no, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate you guys, and yeah, thank you, man.
For sure.
Cheers.
All right.
Xner.
So, after that awesome interview, we got a couple of little scene notes that I know that we want to touch on because now we're just getting started into the weekly news, and quite a bit has happened.
Quite a bit, not insane.
Not. I mean, I feel like we've had such an influx that like this is pretty light week actually.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, with no coaching scandals, no.
Yet.
Yeah.
I did see who was it? It was the developer that worked with Mahao, I think. One of the people that are on the research project for getting people was like, yeah, there's actually coaching spec cam abuse going back to 2015.
Yeah.
So
Well.
I don't even want to go down that road right now, honestly. I want to go back to your comment where you said there's not too much going on.
Yeah, let's just skip all that tough stuff, man. It's been a tough couple of weeks for CS, but moving on, I'd like to talk about a little bit of advanced news this week. Specifically, Team Hyper. Not necessarily exploding, but kind of just falling apart. The Armin and Notorious, or Amen and Notorious rather, who are two players that I know quite well from last season, are moving on to Revenant eSports, which I'm pretty excited to see that roster. We actually saw a little bit of them against Big Chillin the other night. I got to catch a little bit of that game, and they weren't looking too great, but it's a fresh roster, brand new, right off the block. So for their debut, it wasn't bad.
Yeah, not bad. But yeah, going back to the Hyper situation, yeah, they're not exploded, but I guess the most polite word you can say is evolving. Because unlike Revenant, where they lost to Big Chillin, Hyper lost to Vanity 16-1. Ouch. Woof. So that roster leaves Hippo Saver and Dalton as like the original two, and they played with Umi, Mello, and Slight. But yeah, that was not a fun first match with that new roster by any means.
It's gonna need a little bit of recovery there for sure. It's hard to even say that it's a core. When you talk about the two remaining players, like that's not even a core. That's more of like, I don't know, stragglers. But
yeah, survivors.
It's tough to see how this roster kind of broke apart because I feel like they were just such a good team last season. Obviously, you got to move on. You got to go your separate ways if it comes to it. But hopefully, I'm hoping for some recovery for that team because I loved watching them, man. They had some sick upsets last season. Like, I remember on Nuke when they beat RBG, and it was such a fun game to watch them play. But I mean, we'll see if they're able to recover from that pretty soon. I think they can find some footing, especially with Slight. He's pretty good. So.
JSfeltner joining the GGPR squad. I think Exotic was their IGL, or I don't know if it was Exotic or Lowrider. I forget. But Exotic retiring, and I guess JSfeltner coming over from Windstorm, which was power mode in main last season, who's a fragger. I know, I think Nart was talking about, and R700 was talking about JSfeltner last season in main. And so, yeah, he's definitely a nice addition to that GGPR squad who have been ripping faces off in advance so far since winning main.
So how's their record right now? I've been keeping a close eye on
They're
them.
undefeated right now. GGPR.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
that's that's actually
that's
I
good
wasn't
to hear,
expecting it. Yeah,
yeah.
I mean the winning main is didn't they do it flawlessly? So
In playoffs, yeah. No
yeah,
losses in playoffs.
so I
Yep.
mean they're continuing that so far. Maybe they're actually gonna have a good chance. I've been maybe sleeping on them a little bit too much. I need to keep an eye on them a little bit better.
Yeah. They're
But
definitely grinding through this season. And this season, last season I feel like was tons of talent. And this season too, obviously, with Yeah Gaming and Infinity.
yeah,
But there's lots of opportunities, I think,
Infinity's
for people.
Infinity's been struggling. Didn't they lose to CLG Red?
That was their first loss this season last night, yeah. Shout out to CLG Red.
Yeah, that game was. I saw some highlights on Twitter of that, and that was a. I don't know if what the deal was there, but that's a huge upset for CLG Red. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think that might have been their first win of the season and Infinity's first loss of the season.
Wow. Yeah, I
So
mean
yeah, shout out to them.
that is pretty impressive. I'm not gonna lie. Like especially against Infinity, that's pretty nuts.
Yeah.
But moving on to the move from Thunder Logic, sending Eric, I believe, back to his home team. I remember Spork mentioning something about Eric playing on Third Impact, but now they're back with him once again. If I'm remembering correctly, and that's going to be kind
Yeah,
of
for
a
sure.
hopefully a saving grace here for Third Impact. I'm not sure when their next game is. It looks like their next game is going to be tomorrow night, on Thursday. So maybe they can secure themselves a win. It's against Kinship, so really one of the lesser teams in MDL right now. They'll have themselves a decent shot at redemption here. But like at this point, they need to start getting some wins on the board.
Yeah,
That's
they need help.
that's all I can say about that team. Like they've got some serious firepower. They've got some serious potential. Like now, like they just need to show it.
Yeah. And then two more moves I've got. Gulu joining Team Villainous, leaving Weird Champ. And then the homies over at Counter Nature picking up beaKie
That's
from
huge.
from Eros, which leaves us needing just one more player to fulfill our new starting five. We're alive. I wasn't sure if we were gonna survive, but I think with that pickup of beaKie has us looking nice at 2-2. Got a chance to go 3-2 tonight versus Ram Twitter org. Right back on this channel, everybody. 9 p.m. Eastern. So that's gonna be a good match. Random Twitter org. I think R7 ranked them at like they were top 10 in our first advanced rankings, and so yeah, that'll be a cool kind of a grade to see how this new lineup is looking. Not sure who the fifth's gonna be that stands in for us, but I'm assuming it's gonna be
It's
Jam.
gonna be me. I'll help you guys out. Don't worry. I'll carry. I'll get you all your.
Globally Xner.
Yeah. Probably the
But
only
yeah, I think
global
that's
on
it
that
for
team.
the advanced moves.
But for global elite Xner, true. Facts. Is facts. But I kind of want to move on to a little bit of CS news, a little bit of gaming news as well, which is kind of new for this channel. Pretty big actually. Little bits of news this week. First of all, like talking about the up and coming FPL cups. A lot of them are up and coming.
A lot
Like
of them.
every weekend, up and coming. Which I'm wondering if it's gonna conflict with ESEA's cash cups. Well, I mean, I'm not wondering. I know it's going to conflict, unless they just plan on like doing them each. But like, so many different organizations are putting in some money. You got Winners League. You got Rush B and Dust 2, both putting in some weekends, and a lot of money being put out into the scene. I know that we were talking about how much with Rust Rusto earlier about how much money was getting put into the scene in pugs, but now we're seeing it in the team environment. So hopefully that kind of converts into some better teams kind of joining. Counter Nature FPL Cup coming soon.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Hey, I reached out to ESCA when we first started this project and kind of like gave them a heads up, like, maybe we're gonna do one of these things, and kind of stepped away just because it was too much stuff to kind of plan out. But one day it's happening. But yeah, with all these tournaments, it's great, right? First of all, but you started with it as well, where it's like it's a lot and it's kind of too much. And I feel like these ESCA ones have been not increasing in team numbers. And
Yeah.
so it's like if you put them all on every single weekend, and then ESCA's got 2 already, and so there's gonna be 2 weekends that conflict. I think I didn't check the dates,
Yeah.
but let's see, September 5th, and I guess that's it. I guess they're only doing one Summer Cup for September, ESCA.
My thing is like with all of these cups, like if you just can win these on a consistent basis,
Money in the bank, literally.
like $3,000 split between 5 people isn't an insane amount of money, but it's like I don't know, it's enough to keep you motivated, I guess. Like
Yeah.
keep your team in the game, and if ESEA joins along, like these cups could become something really big for the scene. I'm just hoping that ESEA might maybe puts in a little bit more work into like putting it out for like trying to get some more viewership. Mythically does such a good job, They have Flom covering the games. That's obviously huge for viewership. But on top of that, like you've got actual casters on an actual like official channel covering the games, Like
Yeah.
whereas ESEA, I love that they're open IP. I'll always love that, but like at least, try and get it on the ESEA channel or something. That's my only like
For
real
like the
issue.
big games towards
Right.
the end. Yeah. Yeah, and it definitely is, for what Nart's comment is, like at the minimum, yeah. The fact that Triumph is gonna have to play someone in like round 2 or maybe round 3 if it's like a big one, like that's awesome. It's a huge opportunity for people, and it's cool what that was seeing. It was cool to see Triumph and Cloud9, or the other like team. Those are obviously the 2 biggest teams in FPL this past weekend, but having them kind of
I
compete
think
is
there was I think Swole Patrol was in it last week. I can't remember though.
it's all a blur.
Yeah.
But regardless, and I think I said this when ESCA kind of made their pug changes and their first cash cups. It just goes to show that the community leaders are listening and they are trying to make the changes.
Right.
So it's cool to see. If it works out with like the overload of them, we'll have to wait and find out. But it's still encouraging to see new things being tried for sure.
Yeah, I know that there was a ton of outcry to switch up the whole like why is so much money being put into pugs and not enough money
Yeah.
being put into like advanced or MDL. So this is a good like little bit of a meet in the middle. But
Yeah.
moving on to the huge little bit of announcement from Nerd Street Gamers. That this really cool promotion video that came out on Twitter, which kind of caught my eye. But this
That's
really cool
nuts.
facility in, is it Philly? I believe it's in
Philly.
Philly. Yeah.
Yep.
Which I mean that it's super sick. Like the office, the promotion video, like super dope. But we reached out to our local expert. Well, I guess not really local expert, but he knows a little bit about Philly. He's been to a
Philadelphia
couple.
enthusiast.
He's been to a couple Fragadelphias, so hopefully he has some experience there. But he kind of mentioned that this project has been going on for a little while, and that basically it's in a pretty good location where like not much CS I guess is going on. Like I don't know the best way to put it, but like there's not a lot of internet cafes in Philly, so I think this will be huge for like people that need a boot camp, for people that are like maybe trying to do some sort of North American tour. It's gonna be super sick for sure, and I'm excited that if this can grow into something that's popping up in every city. I know it's like super long term, way out there for CS, and gaming and esports in general. But like, the more of these that start to pop up, the more that I get excited.
Yeah. Yeah, and Philadelphia is a good city choice for as well. You know, as a New Yorker, it would have been cool to see this in New York, but also understand the real
Yeah.
estate barriers of New York City. And so Philadelphia, obviously a lot more affordable, and it's a nice kind of like middle ground city where, you know, if you're from New York, you can get to Philly easily. You know, Jersey you can get there easily, Baltimore. It's a nice kind of like East Coast home base, and it's, you know, not super close to Chicago, but you know, it is more of an entrance into the Midwest as opposed to New York City. So it's a cool thing to see. And yeah, I mean, if you haven't seen that video, definitely go check it out. I
Oh yeah.
probably waited like 24 hours before I watched it. And or no, did that come out today?
It came out
This week, I think.
it came out yesterday, yeah.
Yeah. And so I just watched it today, and it was really impressive. It definitely I haven't seen anything that comes close to what they've put into that, and maybe that's on behalf of their their video editing, but I think that place is really state of the art, and it's
Yeah.
dope.
It looks very sick.
Yeah.
Um that's all I've got for this week.
Is
I
that a
don't know.
wrap?
I think that's a wrap officially. But
It's nice kind of finishing earlier as opposed to like 10:30 at night or 10. Now it's done at 8. Get to watch the Counter-Strike match for Counter Nature.
I was gonna
Not
cast an
bad.
MDL game, but then I found out that ESCA's casting it, so
Rip.
yeah, I love that.
The Imperium game.
Yep. I like I'm just not gonna it's fine.
Xner wants no smoke with
Yeah.
VSCA right now.
Just deep breaths, move on. We'll be okay. Maybe tomorrow's my day. It's just the second day in a row that's happened to me, but honestly, I get to play Among Us, so who's the real winner?
Nice.
Me. I'm the real winner there. ESCA isn't playing Among Us. I am, so. Ha ha ha.
Whew. All right. Well, on that note, I'll take us out here. Thanks everybody for tuning in. That was a really cool episode. Thanks to Sean Rusto
Yeah.
at Triumph. Hope you guys liked that. Once again, as always, shoot us a follow, like us, and subscribe to us on YouTube.
You better
And
smash that
yeah, you
subscribe
better
button.
smash it, punch it,
Smash that like button. We need it.
and hope everyone's having a good week, and hope everyone's gonna enjoy the rest of their week. So, peace and love, my friends.